Why governments fear Bitcoin? What if the most dangerous threat to governments wasn't a weapon, an army, or even another country? What if it was just code? A few thousand lines of computer code, quietly running on millions of machines around the world. No headquarters. No CEO. No government. No off switch. And yet, some of the most powerful institutions on Earth, central banks, regulators, and governments, are watching it very closely. Some have tried to regulate it. Some have tried to ban it. Some have even tried to destroy it. But every time they push back, it somehow survives. And sometimes, it grows even stronger. This raises a fascinating question. Why would governments fear something that isn't controlled by anyone? Why would a digital currency created by an anonymous programmer become such a global concern? To understand that, we need to look at what Bitcoin really is. Because once you see the system it challenges, everything starts to make sense. At first glance, Bitcoin looks harmless. It's just digital money. You can send it online. You can store it in a digital wallet. You can buy things with it. That doesn't sound very threatening. After all, new financial technologies appear all the time. Credit cards, online banking, mobile payments. Governments didn't panic when those were invented. So why is Bitcoin different? Why do politicians debate it? Why do regulators constantly warn about it? Why have some countries banned it entirely? And why are central banks suddenly rushing to create their own digital currencies? Because Bitcoin doesn't just change money. It challenges the entire system behind it. And once you understand how the current system works, the real reason becomes clear. For most of human history, money looked very different from what we use today. Coins made from gold and silver were common. These metals had value because they were scarce and difficult to produce. Later, paper money appeared. At first, these paper notes were simply claims on real gold stored in banks. You could exchange them for actual metal. But over time, something changed. Governments realized that controlling money gave them enormous power. So gradually, the link between money and physical assets disappeared. Today, most currencies are what economists call fiat money. That means the money has value because governments say it does. The US dollar, the euro, the yen. None of them are backed by gold anymore. Instead, central banks control how much money exists. They can print more. They can lower interest rates. They can inject money into the economy during crises. This system gives governments powerful tools to manage economic growth, fight recessions, and stabilize financial markets. But it also gives them something else. Control. Control over how money flows. Control over financial institutions. And sometimes, control over individuals. Because in a traditional financial system, almost every transaction passes through banks. And banks operate under government oversight. That means accounts can be frozen. Transactions can be blocked. And financial activity can be monitored. For decades, this system was simply accepted as the way the world worked. Until 2008. The year everything changed. In 2008, the global financial system nearly collapsed. Major banks failed. Markets crashed. Millions of people lost jobs, homes, and savings. Governments stepped in with massive bailouts. Trillions of dollars were created to rescue financial institutions. To many people, the system suddenly looked very fragile. And very unfair. While ordinary citizens struggled, large banks were saved. It was during this moment of crisis that something unusual appeared online. A 9-page document. Published by someone using the name Satoshi Nakamoto. The document described a new type of money, a digital currency that didn't rely on banks, didn't require trust in governments, and didn't need any central authority to operate. The idea was radical. Instead of a bank verifying transactions, a network of computers around the world would verify them together. Instead of one central ledger, every participant would hold a copy. And instead of printing new money whenever leaders decided, the supply would follow strict mathematical rules. This system became known as Bitcoin. At first, almost nobody paid attention. But over time, something remarkable happened. The network kept running. Day after day. Year after year. Without a central controller. Without a shutdown button. Without permission. And that's where things started to get interesting. Bitcoin wasn't just another payment system. It was something far more unusual. It was the first form of decentralized money. No central bank controls it. No government issues it. No company owns it. The system runs on a technology called blockchain. Every transaction is recorded on a public ledger. Anyone can see it. But no single entity can alter it. Once a transaction is confirmed, it becomes extremely difficult to reverse. This creates something rare in finance. Money that operates independently of governments. And that independence changes everything. Because historically, control over money has always been a core power of the state. Governments issue currency. Governments regulate banks. Governments influence interest rates. But Bitcoin sits outside that structure. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't recognize borders. And it doesn't care about political decisions. Anyone with an internet connection can use it. Anywhere in the world. That level of financial freedom is exciting to some people. But to governments, it raises serious concerns. And those concerns go much deeper than most people realize. The real issue isn't just about digital currency. It's about control over the monetary system. Throughout history, governments have relied on control of money to manage economies. When a country faces a recession, central banks often respond by lowering interest rates or creating more money. This process can stimulate spending and investment. During emergencies, like financial crashes or pandemics, governments can inject massive liquidity into the system. These tools are powerful. But they only work if governments control the currency. Bitcoin changes that dynamic. Unlike traditional money, Bitcoin has a fixed supply. Only 21 million coins will ever exist. No central authority can print more. No government can change the rules. This means Bitcoin operates outside the traditional monetary toolkit. If a large portion of an economy shifted into Bitcoin, central banks would lose some of their ability to influence economic activity. Interest rate policies would have less effect. Money creation would be limited. Capital could move freely across borders without banking systems acting as intermediaries. For governments, that's a major shift. Because monetary control has always been tied to national power. But the challenge doesn't stop there. Bitcoin also introduces financial privacy. Transactions are recorded publicly, but identities aren't always tied to them. In some cases, this can make tracking financial activity more difficult. That creates concerns about tax evasion, illegal markets, and regulatory enforcement. Governments worry about losing visibility into financial flows. And visibility is a key part of maintaining financial stability. But perhaps the biggest concern is something more subtle. Competition. For the first time in modern history, governments face a currency that people can choose voluntarily. If citizens begin storing wealth outside the traditional banking system, it reduces the influence of national currencies. And if that trend grows large enough, it could reshape the global financial order. Of course, the story isn't one-sided. Bitcoin itself carries real risks. Its price is extremely volatile. Values can rise dramatically and fall just as quickly. That volatility makes it difficult to use as everyday money. Security is another concern. If someone loses access to their digital wallet, the funds may be permanently inaccessible. There is no customer support line, no central authority to reverse mistakes. And while the Bitcoin network itself has proven remarkably resilient, the surrounding ecosystem, exchanges, platforms, and wallets can still be vulnerable to hacks or fraud. Governments also argue that completely unregulated financial systems could create new risks for consumers. Without oversight, scams and market manipulation can flourish. That's why many countries are trying to regulate cryptocurrency rather than eliminate it entirely. Some governments are even developing their own digital currencies. These are called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Unlike Bitcoin, they remain fully controlled by central banks. This allows governments to maintain oversight while modernizing their financial systems. In many ways, the rise of Bitcoin has accelerated this global race toward digital money. But the fundamental difference remains. One system is centralized. The other isn't. So, the real story isn't just about Bitcoin. It's about a deeper question. Who should control money? For centuries, that power belonged almost entirely to governments and central banks. Bitcoin introduced a new possibility. Money governed by mathematics instead of institutions. A system where trust isn't placed in authorities, but in code. Whether that system will reshape the global economy is still uncertain. Governments are adapting. Regulations are evolving. New digital currencies are being created. But one thing is already clear. The idea that money must be controlled by a central authority has been challenged. And once an idea like that enters the world, it's very difficult to erase. Bitcoin may rise. Bitcoin may fall. But the question it raised will likely remain for decades. What happens when money no longer belongs to governments, but to the network itself? Because if that future arrives, it could change not just finance, but power itself.